it is time for my March wrap-up. I have a confession to make. This month was supposed to be my big catch-up month because I'm really behind in a lot of books and there were not a lot of new books coming out this month. However, my confession is I only read 2 full books this month, and I will explain exactly why when I get there. At the end of last month, I said that I had gotten my hands on The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, and I absolutely adored this book. Within the first 100 pages of it, I was already ranking it 5 stars in my head. I think everybody needs to read this book. If you haven't already heard me talk about this, I feel like I've been talking about it with everybody I've come across. But if you haven't heard, this book is about a girl named Star who lives in basically the ghetto, but she goes to a private school in a different neighborhood, and she feels kind of split between the 2 worlds. One day, she is with a friend when he gets gunned down by a police officer at a traffic stop, and now she needs to decide if she's going to speak out and do something about it and try to make people's lives better and help, or stay quiet, protect herself and her own family. I absolutely love this book. It really changed my way of thinking about things. It made me understand some ideas that I had heard before and not fully understood until I was in Star's head hearing it from where she was coming from. Really, everybody needs to read this book. I can't say that enough. I do have a review for it. Check that out by clicking below, or I will have it linked at the end of the video. As I've been doing recently, I've been reading physical books a lot and audiobooks. I actually did listen to a lot of audiobooks this month, even though I wasn't reading a lot of physical books this month. So next up I have Summerlust by Ali Kandi. This one I actually didn't realize when I chose it is a middle grade book. Summerlust is about a girl who goes to, I guess, the area where her mom grew up, but for her it's just a summer home, and they just bought this new place. She had recently lost her brother and father in a car accident. At this new place, she meets a boy who takes her to this festival, and she ends up working there. There's a mystery that she's trying to solve. And it's really about building a friendship and how life can move on after grief. I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it, partly because I didn't realize I was getting into a middle grade novel when I turned it on, and it just wasn't holding my interest like a lot of other stories do. I chose not to rate it on Goodreads for that reason, really, because it just wasn't really what I was looking for at that time. But if you like middle grade novels, definitely check it out. It was cute. It had a good lesson. It's what I look for in those. Next, I'm going to get into why I only finished 2 physical books this month. And it's because, once again, I tried to read the second Magnus Chase book. And once again, I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I think I figured out why this month. I think it's because I have a tendency to latch on to romance in stories, especially recently. This is another middle grade story, and there's no romance to latch onto, and that makes it more difficult to pull me into a story. This time I made it to page 130 before I stopped reading. If I keep this up, I might get there eventually, but it's gonna mean a lot of other books I'm not reading, because I was stuck on this for 2 weeks before I finally gave up again and switched to something else. It's probably part of how I got through so many audiobooks this month, because I was listening to those instead of reading this. So that's something. Sorry, Rick Riordan, I do love you. It is an enjoyable book. I recognize that it's really good and enjoyable. I just can't do it right now. Sorry. Next up, I have another audiobook, The Black Key, which is the 3rd book in the Lone City series by Amy Ewing. As you know, I read the first 2 books last month, and I talked about those. I did do a book talk for the first one, which I can link below. I had meant to do a book talk for books 2 and 3, but not only did I kind of fail at reading physical books this month, I also kind of failed at book talks this month. Sorry. I kind of felt the same about this one as I did with the first 2. I really did love the story. I loved the overall plot, but I was just not into the romance of it the way I normally am with these types of books. I did enjoy it a little bit more in the last one just because it wasn't the center of it as much, and there was more going on, and there was another romance in it that I was more invested in. So I think I did enjoy this one a little bit more than the other ones, but definitely not my favorite series. But like I said, I did like this more than the first two. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I said it's like an 89%, which is almost 5 stars. Like, it was really good. I really do like the story. It was just that one, the main romance in it was just holding me back. But it was really good. And if you can get past that one romance, or if you enjoy that one romance, it was fantastic. Next, I have another audiobook. This one is my second audiobook, actually, by Sarah Dessen, and the second book I've read by Sarah Dessen. I have kind of just become obsessed with her, and now I need to play a lot of catch up because she has a million books out that I now need to read. This one was called Along for the Ride. It's about a girl named Auden who goes to stay with her father for the summer while things are just kind of crazy. And it's the summer before college. She has spent her entire life being the good girl, the studier, and kind of making up for her brother that's a little bit more carefree and outgoing. But this summer, she goes to stay with her dad, his new wife, and their brand new baby in a beach town. And there she meets boys and people that could potentially be her friends, and one particular boy that I was swooning over so much. I absolutely adored this story. I'm actually really mad at myself for not doing a video review for this one. I think I didn't because it's an older book, and I like to save my videos for newer releases. This is one where, had it been a new release, I definitely would have done a video for it. I gave it 4.5 stars again. I just wasn't quite ready for the 5 stars, but this book was adorable, swoon-worthy. There were some much deeper themes as well. I really just loved this book. It was fantastic. Next up, I have a physical book. Yay! Next up, I have Guardian of Secrets. This is the second book in the Library Jumpers series. I will link below the Fandom Feels video that we did on the first book that I did with Kate and Natasha. My feelings about this one are very similar to that one. I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars, which is rare for me. The story is good. I feel bad saying this, but the writing is not. Every single part of it was extremely predictable. There were things where I was just waiting for it to come out that this was happening, which is not always a bad thing. And this is something I meant to talk about in a book review, but I didn't. I just didn't want to do a review for this book. My issue with this is, it's one thing when the readers see something that's obvious, but the characters don't see it, and they're completely oblivious to it in their naivety or whatever. And that can be extremely compelling to a reader and frustrating in an amazing way. This book, however, the characters did see those things, but then just ignored it. And they were not things that, as a human, you would ignore. It was extremely frustrating. She would notice something and say, "That's weird, it must mean this." Maybe not, oh well. Really? I'm sorry. A lot of the times I say that frustrating characters is a good thing because it keeps you invested in the book. This one, I was just so frustrated in not a good way. I'm never mean to books, so I feel bad right now. But I don't know, I think there's supposed to be a third one. I guess I'll read it. I'm not super excited to. I feel bad. Next was another Sarah Dessen book called What Happened to Goodbye. It was another audiobook I listened to. I also gave this one 4 stars. This one is about McLean, who her parents had an extremely messy divorce where her mom ended up marrying basically her dad's idol and had twins with him. She and her dad have been moving around, not placing roots anywhere, and that's great for her. She is able to come up with a new personality at every place she goes to, and she thinks that's fantastic. But at the newest place they go to, all of a sudden, she is starting to become herself again and figure out who she really is. And there's a boy next door who is helping with this, and we get to see them develop, and she's making real friends for the first time in years. And I really just loved this book, like the other one. I didn't like it quite as much as along for the ride, but I still did really, really enjoy it and like it and swoon-worthy again. There are some real themes in it. Finding yourself, which all books have, but more than most romance novels. Acceptance. I feel like all Sarah Dessen books involve parents getting divorced and then into new relationships and how that affects kids, at least in the experience of the 3 that I have audiobooked. But I'll read more of her soon and find out if that pattern continues. Yay! I'm getting emotional just thinking about this one. The last audiobook I listened to in March, which I did not technically finish in March, but I finished on April 1st, was The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now, this is my first ever Jennifer L. Armentrout book, and boy, was it a doozy. This book is about a girl named Mallory who grew up in a terrible foster home with a boy named Ryder, and he was her protector. He would take care of her from the terrible foster father, and he would actually take beatings for her and tell her to hide and just stay quiet because if she talked, she would be punished. One day, something happens, which there's a bit of a mystery as to what exactly happened throughout the book, but something happened, and Mallory, who Ryder calls Mouse because she's quiet as a mouse, ends up out of the foster home and ends up being adopted by these 2 doctors who take extremely good care of her and are the parents she hadn't had up until that point. And her life is great, but she's still haunted by her past. All of this is before the story actually happens. So the story starts with Mallory after 4 years of homeschooling and seeing doctors and worrying about her mental health and working very slowly towards coming out of her shell a little bit. She decides that she wants to go to public school. Of course, she gets to public school, and guess who's there? Ryder. And they recognize each other immediately and reconnect. Anything else I say is going to be a spoiler, but I loved this book. And there's PTSD in it. There are different ways that people could react from the same situation in completely different ways. There's talk about what makes a real family and what makes a home. There's obviously romance and misunderstandings and heartbreak. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. The moment I finished it, I'm like, that was a 5-star book. I do want a companion novel for 2 of the characters that were just kind of left open and we don't know what's happening there, and I really need to know. So Jennifer L. Armentrout, I'm looking to you for a companion for this book. I do want to do a video for this one. I'm not sure if I will just because timing is kind of weird right now, but I literally just finished it and I do want to talk about it. So I'm hoping that a video will come for that one, and stay tuned for that. But that's all I have to say right now. 5 stars. It was fantastic. Finally, there is one more book that I started at the end of March because it just came out on Tuesday, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. She is the author of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, which I adored. The ending of the 3rd book actually made me cry happy tears for the first time ever. But this is a brand new book by Laini Taylor. I believe it's the start of a series. I was having a little bit of trouble getting into it at the very beginning. It just kind of picked up today, so I'm going to keep reading this when I'm done this video. But it is about, it's about a boy who grew up fascinated with this city that everybody thinks no longer exists. But one day it turns out that it does still exist, it's just been hidden, and the people come and he has a chance to go to the city and try to help them solve some problems that are happening. Apparently it is from multiple perspectives, which I just found out while reading it. It's not obvious from the inside of the book. I don't know, I'm only on part 2 right now. I don't know if each part is from a completely different perspective or if it's switching between the people that I've now met between the different parts or what, but I'm excited to explore more about this. Finally, I have one book that I received this month from Entangled Teen, who sends me all great books and I love them. Secrets of a Reluctant Princess by Casey Griffin. At Beverly Hills High, you have to be ruthless to survive. So it sounds like this is about a girl who has always wanted to be liked, and she's pushed out of her nerdy comfort zone. I don't know if that means that she's becoming popular now or what. And then there's a boy who's also kind of a nerd who she likes, and she has to go into disguise to talk to him. If he ever finds out who she really is, he'd be really mad, which I assume he's going to find out by the end of the book, because it's a book and that's what happens. I'm excited to read that. That is it for March. I was hoping to get through some more books this month, but Magnus Chase kind of ruined that for me. Keep your eyes peeled for my review of The End of Our Story, which I was able to read in ARC form in February, and I talked about it a little bit in my wrap-up for February, but it comes out this Tuesday, so I finally get to post my review. That's it. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe by clicking up here, and you can follow me on Twitter at ReaderGonnaRead, just like my YouTube. I will talk to you next time. Goodbye! Hey, Ellie and Dobby here. Like the video? Come subscribe. Do it right now. Click it.